You know I've traveled near and far to see the shining sea. I've seen a lot of places and people that were nice to me. One place that's in my heart, and this is how I feel. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. She's nestled in the sand hills on a river called Fayetteville. Special to so many who proudly served our country here.
Okay.
She was named for Lafayette and known for cotton mills. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. Babe Ruth hit his first one.
Yep.
Heard around the world. Sherman marched with the Union and burned the arsenal. Old Market House still standing, but stands for freedom's will. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. My all-American city, Fayetteville. Talking about my hometown, Fayetteville.
This position, all that.
Ask that you stand for our invocation tonight led by Councilman Wade Fowler, and if you'd remain standing for a Pledge of Allegiance tonight offered by Troop 82 from Fort Bragg. Mr. Fowler.
Father, we just praise you and thank you for this opportunity to be together today. We thank you for giving us a free country where we can carry out the citizens' business in the open, Lord, and to try to do the best things that we can, Lord, for the citizens of this city. And we pray that as we go through this meeting tonight, you'd give us wisdom and clear minds in making the right decisions. And Father, we lift this city up to you and ask you, hold us in your hands. And we ask this now, Father, and I do, Father, in Christ's name. Amen.
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 You're coming up. Come on up, gentlemen. Don't be afraid.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good job, guys.
Okay, council, we'll begin with tonight's approval of the agenda. Mr. Arp?
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that we add one item, and that would be a budget ordinance amendment to 2012-8 general fund. And the amendment is to ask for the approval of this budget amendment, which will appropriate 2000, excuse me, I can't read, I need to put my glasses on here. Will appropriate $237,500 to fund additional anticipated expenditures in the city manager's office. And the source of the funding for the budget ordinance amendment total is $237,500 appropriation from the general fund balance.
Okay, have a motion to approve the agenda with the additional item that just articulated by Mr. Arp. Mr. Bates?
Second.
Okay, have a second. Any discussion on the motion to approve the agenda with the change? Hearing none, let me ask for your vote, please. That is unanimous. Thank you. We'll move now to item 5, which is tonight's consent agenda, and that item would include as item 5.7, the additional item that Mr. Arp just articulated.
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Is there a second to Mr. Hurst's motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Any discussion on the motion? Ask your vote, please. That's unanimous. Thank you, council. We'll begin our series of public hearings, and let me give the rules and regulations for the public hearings tonight. First of all, each side will have a total of 15 minutes to present your position, whether you are for or against. Individual speakers will have one time to speak and will be limited to 3 minutes each, unless by previous arrangement a single spokesman is designated, in which case a spokesman may use the entire 15 minutes. When you hear the beep and see the light located on the podium change from green to yellow, that means there's approximately 30 seconds left of the 3 minutes. And when you hear the beep, see the timer located on the podium blink and change from yellow to red, that means the full 3 minutes has expired. We ask that when your name is called, you come to the podium and state your name and address loudly so we can make note of it for the record. And we'll begin our first public hearing tonight, item 6.1. Thanks for being here, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just a reminder, we do need to, that is a special use permit, so it's quasi-judicial, and we'll need to swear in speakers for that.
All right. Madam Clerk, will you call all the speakers, including Mr. Harmon, please?
Mr. Craig Harmon, Peter Paoni, Val Codali, Kathy Parker, Bill Parker, Jimmy Parker, Scott Wilson. Raise your right hand. Raise your hand on the Bible. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, first case we have before you tonight is case P1207F. The requested action is for a special use permit on properties located at 3401, 3405, 3409, 3413 Village Drive, 1802 Conover, and 1803 Fargo. It's approximately 2.7 acres in total. And this is a special use permit related to the hospital area overlay zone, where any new office, medical office in that area, if it's within 100 feet of residential properties, has to come through a special use permit process. On the zoning map in front of you, you can see where this property is located. We have Fargo Drive here, Conover Drive here, which is the one with the stoplight on Village Drive. Owen Drive is here just at the very corner of the map. And then this is the hospital here to the north. What we've got, you actually, under your consent items tonight, approved a rezoning for these properties to where they are all now office and institutional. And now, as I mentioned at the first, they're looking to get a special use permit to allow offices to be built on this because they are within, obviously, 100 feet of residential properties here to the back, some to the sides as well. The current land use in the area is predominantly single-family residential, low density. The corner property here has been rezoned for a number of years already to O&I, but it is part of this request for the special use permit as well. You can see here on the site plan that's been overlaid onto this aerial what the applicant is looking to do. They're looking to build 2 office buildings. They can give you a little more detail on them when they come up, but both would be somewhere in the 10,000 square foot per story range, and they're looking at multiple, probably about 3-story high buildings, which if you know the area out there very well, here at the other intersection here of Fargo and Village, there's already a 14,000 square foot new office building there, so these staff thinks will fit in quite nicely in that area and will contribute to the hospital area overlay plan that was just approved last year, and the goals of that to try to create a medical campus around the hospital. But as you can see, they're looking at 2 building sites with parking, landscaping, everything to meet the code of the ordinance as well. The entrances to both facilities, there would be no entranceway driveways off of Village Drive. There would be 1 driveway in off of Conover and 1 off of Fargo. And all of the parking areas would be interconnected, so you could go all the way through the parking lot, in or out either side. The Zoning Commission and staff have recommended approval of the special use permit based on the hospital area plan calling for office use on those properties. The size of the property in question is large enough for medical complex and those major elements of the attached site plan that we just looked at. Are there any questions of staff at this time before we open the public hearing?
Any questions for Mr. Harmon? Mr. Hurst?
Mr. Harmon, on your map, that's a 10-foot buffer before it's a fence. Would that fence be a masonry fence?
It doesn't have to be masonry, but it is an opaque, it is a see-through fence, whether it be wood or masonry or 6 feet high.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. We'll open the public hearing. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, our first speaker is Mr. Peter Paone.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you very much for seeing us tonight. My name is Peter A. Paone. I live at 2078 Orville Street, Fayetteville 28312. On behalf of the 6 folks that signed up to speak in favor, I'd like to demit our time to Mr. Scott Wilson, our spokesman.
All right, sir. Is everyone in agreement? How many people have signed up, ma'am?
6, sir.
Is everyone in agreement that one spokesperson, is he here? Great, sir. Come right up. Thank you so much, Mr. Paone.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I am here as an advocate as well as a representative for the petitioners, Dr. Vali Kadali and the Parker family. What we are proposing is a quality Class A medical office complex, 2 buildings. I would like to note some of the attributes of this proposed developments, and one is certainly with great sensitivity to the fact that we are an adjacent abutment to a single-family residential area. These buildings will adjust Village Drive as tightly as they can and to meet the metes and bounds as set forth by the site guidelines, and basically try and, I think, rather sensitively contain the parking to the rear of these facilities. Naturally, this is four-sided architecture. The entry points will be stacked deep into the site to ensure that we do not have stacking or congestion problems at both interchanges. We did mention that the landscaping, fencing, etc., to further reduce the impact to neighbors. I think the critical takeaway point here is that this is intended for a relatively unique and extremely sincere quality medical office complex, Class A, and to create what we think is going to be becoming a critical medical arts corridor off Owen Drive leading towards Fargo Drive as Cape Fear Valley Hospital continues to be the predominant player in southeastern North Carolina for quality medical health care. This is a natural evolution and a very necessary evolution, and I think this works within the absolute intent of the hospital overlay district. You can tell by this rendering here that this is a relatively sincere project as opposed to something that looks like it has evolved out of a quasi-residential environment. The intent of the buildings is to replicate the architecture of Cape Fear Valley Hospital, as well as to create some compression along the street by adjacent the street immediately as opposed to setting back in a more suburban environment. Are there any questions that I could answer as an architect and representative of the general contractor? I'd be happy to do so.
We'll save those questions for the end of the public hearing, sir. Is that the conclusion of your remarks?
That is the conclusion,
Could
yes.
you give me your address, please, sir?
I'm sorry, 1725 Chatham Avenue, Charlotte, albeit formerly of Fayetteville, 6326 Morganton Road.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So we have no further speakers on that item.
Okay, ma'am, we'll close the public hearing and entertain any additional questions from council. Mr. Bates?
Mr. Harmon, now there's 6 parcels. Have these been regrouped into one parcel?
They haven't at this time, but what has happened, they have been re-subdivided recently. In the past, if you look on here, there were what they did was basically split them to where one group owns this section currently and the other group owns this section currently.
Okay.
But they're working together on the project.
Okay, so there's actually just 2 parcels then. They've been grouped into 2.
I'm not sure if they've been grouped into 2 yet, but they have been. There was a different little configuration of them where they didn't quite line up into squares as they are now, and they did some land swapping so that both sides have basically the same area now, and they're neat little squares.
All right, thank you. And then I know they're medical offices and they'll be during the day, but is there anything that says, that they don't turn it into a 24-hour emergency care or whatever they call it, urgent care or something like that? I mean, because they're right up against, the other residential houses, even though you have the parking lot between the buildings and the residentials, but, come 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, if they're open at that time, you have all that light from there going into the residentials.
Well, I would have 2 comments on that. First, I'll address the light issue, and do remember that we do have the new lighting ordinance with our new development code that seeks to cut down on the light trespass from one property to the next. So at the edge of the property, there's not much of a light trespass, so they try to avoid that. The other comment would be that there is nothing in the ordinance currently that would regulate the times of operation. However, this is a special use permit. As part of that permit procedure, council can impose conditions on the properties.
Okay. Can we ask Mr. Paone a question? Would you impose a time that you would not be open past?
Deferring our time to Mr. Wilson to answer all our questions.
All right, Mr. Wilson.
Yes, sir.
be the hours that will be part of this special use permit?
Well, unfortunately, it is speculative. We are just now beginning conversations with potential tenants for this building. This, as it stands right now, would be a lease building as opposed to a for-sale medical condo building. I would be speculating if I said we would have a building that potentially would be operating after hours. The overwhelming majority of medical office buildings obviously do not. We are not seeking out an urgent care facility. The intent here, and I'm kind of unfortunately answering your question broadly, is we don't really have much in the way of quality medical office in immediate adjacency to the hospital, and we're rather unique in the state in that regard.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the hours if you
I wouldn't know
what
that,
the
sir.
hours of
I don't think
operation
I
would
could.
be.
I would assume they would be normal operating hours with closure around 6 p.m.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Hurst?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Then I would like to make a motion to approve the special use permit for the properties at 3401, 3405, 3409, 3413 Village Drive, and 1802 Conover, and 1803 Fargo, to allow office use as presented by staff and based on the standards that were met.
Have a motion. Is there a second to Mr. Hurst's motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Any discussion of the motion? Let me ask for your vote. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move now to item 6.2, the proposed street name change from Sherrod Avenue to Myrtle Hill Lane. Mr. Shuford, thanks for being here, sir.
Mr. Mayor and council members, this is indeed a proposed street name change from Sherrod Avenue to Myrtle Hill Lane. The street in question is a 2-block long, very short street. This is the VA hospital here, if that helps orient you. This is a large parcel that contains the Myrtle Hill development that is an historic development associated with the home place of Robert Strange, who was a judge, an author, a militia officer, and a U.S. senator who lived on the property. It is on the National Landmark Registry, and Mr. Crisp asked a great question at our agenda review session about whether Sherrard had any historical connotations. I spoke with Mr. Bruce Dawes, our Historic Resources Manager. Mr. Dawes indicated that there was no associated historical connotation of the scale of Myrtle Hill at any rate to Sherrard, and he didn't know of any historic background for that name in general. So our recommendation is for you to approve it, but I do believe we have someone here to speak on the item.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions for Mr. Shuford at this time? Mr. Bates?
Yes, sir. Mr. Shuford, what question, like an admin issue, if this is approved tonight, how does, all the residents have to put a change of address, but they're not changing their address, or just, how does the post office get notified that the street name's changed? Just the street name. What's that process?
Well, we will go through the formal process of changing the street name on our maps, and the post office will give these residents a period of time to make the adjustments to their addresses, and they will continue to bring them mail for a fairly long period of time at the old address. So all of the people on the street have supported the name change, and so I think they're well aware of what they're getting into.
Thank you, Mr. Shuford. We'll open the public hearing, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, we just have one speaker, Miss Patricia Politzevitz.
I'm actually the owner of Myrtle Hill, and I'm here for, if you have any questions, where the Sherrod Boulevard is, our home, which is right now 309 Kirkland Drive, is the only home on that street. There is an abandoned home that I believe is condemned which is in the property next door. None of the other residents have an address on that street. We are the only house that has an address on 309 Kirkland Drive. So we'll be the only ones changing. It'll be a little inconvenient for time, but we're looking forward to it. Does anybody have any other questions?
Could you give us your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, Patricia Politovich, and it's 309 Kirkland Drive.
Thank you very much. And we'll close the public hearing, see if there are any questions, ma'am. Thank you for being here.
So we have no further speakers.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. We have any additional questions from council? Ms. Davy?
I make a motion to approve the proposed street name change.
Second. I have a motion from Ms. Davy, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Arp. Any discussion on the motion?
Sir, do we need to put an effective date or?
Affected immediately.
Mr. Schuffer, was there an effective date associated with the motion?
No, sir, I don't see an effective date with this in terms of what the requirement is, but I think that if you just approve it, it will be changed upon modification of our official street map.
All right, how about that, Ms. Davy? You okay with that? Okay, thank you. You okay with that, Mr. Arp?
I am.
All right, let me ask for your vote on the motion, please. It's unanimous. Thank you, council. We'll move now to item 9.3, which is a quasi-judicial public hearing on a subdivision waiver. And we'll need to be sworn in, I believe, Mr. Schufert, and any of the spokespersons tonight. I'm sorry, 6.3, yes. What did I say?
9.3.
Madam Clerk, are there other speakers?
Yes, sir. We have David Lee Zurafel, and Anthony Mendez, Emily Mendez, D. Hill. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Council members, the item before you tonight is a waiver of the subdivision standards, and it involves property located off of Rayford Road. Rayford Road is in this location. Rim Road, Gillis Hill Road is over here to help orient you. The property in question is this lot right here. You can see that it is located some distance off of Rayford Road, and from the standpoint of any street situation, it is landlocked. This shows the surrounding zoning of the area with commercial to the north and to the east of the property. Property is currently zoned AR, agricultural residential, and adjoins AR property to the south and to the west. This is an aerial photograph of the property, and I'll bring up some features from this aerial that will help. You see the property located in the green box to the top of the screen. This is the easement that currently accesses the property, and it is roughly a 15-foot wide easement. The easement runs by a daycare center to the that is fronts on Rayford Road, located in this area. The in-laws of the Mendezes live here, and this would be the property in which the Mendezes would like to build a house. And that orients you. Here's a picture showing the access easement. This is the daycare center, and you're sort of seeing it from the perspective of how you would see it off of Rayford Road. This is a picture submitted by the applicant who is indicating that there is access to the property for large vehicles, shown here with the dump truck spreading dirt on the property. This is a proposed home as submitted by the applicant. And there are 3 required findings that you have to make. The first one is, does the strict application of the ordinance subdivision requirements result in practical difficulties and unnecessary hardships? Second one is, do the practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships result from topographical or other conditions peculiar to the land and are not the result of actions by the landowner? And the third one is, granting of the subdivision waiver will not destroy the intent of the requirements being waived. So in other words, the granting of that waiver would be in keeping with the intent and purpose of the ordinance. Now, what our code requires is that lots be accessed from either a public or private street. This is accessed from, as I mentioned, a 15-foot wide easement. Additionally, to give you a little setting for this, this property was developed or subdivided in Cumberland County, became part of the city as part of an annexation. And as a result, the standards that Cumberland County has for accessing a property in this circumstance are different than what the city allows. So what we have is a situation where the county allows lots created before 1984 to be able to be accessed by easements such as this. The city does not. Additionally, the county does have a standard that that does limit that time frame. It's got to be a lot that's created before 1984. This lot was created in 1973 and was purchased by the property owner in 1999. Staff has recommended denial because we don't think that the applicant meets the first or the third standard, and you could make an argument that the second standard is not met, or at least met in partiality. We don't believe that it's as a result of the action of the owner, but we don't find that there's anything especially unique from a topographic or other conditions that are peculiar to the land that would warrant granting the waiver. Now, having said that, the Planning Commission did find that all three standards were met, and they did recommend that the applicant receive your favorable review, but that three conditions be imposed as a result of your consideration. One is that the legal easement, which is recorded by the deed, shall be platted, and that the plat will indicate that the city shall not be involved in any property owner issues relating to the easement. The second one, that the plat shall indicate that the easement allows for government access as needed. And the third one, that the garbage rollouts used by the residents of the parcels shall be rolled to Rayford Road for waste pickup by our Environmental Services Department. Council had some questions from the agenda review session. It's our understanding that the other lot owners served by this easement do take their solid waste and recycling containers to Rayford Road for city pickup. I think we have the fire marshal here to answer any questions about fire and EMS service to this lot, but I did not see anyone from the fire department to be sworn in. So if we did need someone to speak, we would have to get them to come forward and be sworn in. I will tell you, from what I understand, our fire code requirements do require a 20-foot wide access to properties, but that requirement only takes place when you have 3 or more properties being accessed. So it would not necessarily apply in this situation. We have asked fire about the access. They have indicated that they would be able to get to the property if it was necessary, but it's certainly not an ideal situation from their standpoint because that easement is so narrow it could well be blocked. And last but not least, one question was raised about whether the lot could be developed absent this waiver. And it could be upon subdivision of the adjoining property because we would require a stub out. So I'll give you an example from this picture. Here's the property in question. if this lot or this lot over here was further developed, we would require some sort of linkage that would connect this property to the access that would be provided for these properties. Better go back to that. That concludes my presentation. You have several people here for the item, and I'm glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chris and then Ms. Applewhite.
I'll hold till after the
Ms. Applewhite.
public hearing.
Hey, Mr. Shuford, I read over the package, and can you speak to the fact that there had been an existing home on that property at one time, and had it been demolished voluntarily, or do you have any history on that?
I think you're going to need to get that information from the applicant. I think they'll have more information. But if there had been an existing home on that property, it was certainly not demolished on the work of the city.
And because I did have questions about the fire, so can we take your testimony about the fire access as, I guess that's a question for the attorney. Can we take his comments about accessibility by the fire department, or do we have to have someone from the fire department sworn in to attest to that?
Well, sir, it's a quasi-judicial, it is a quasi-judicial hearing. And so certainly it would be better, Mr. Shuford can certainly be sworn in as well, or has been sworn in as the other speakers. Certainly it would be better if we had someone from the fire department, but they all have been sworn.
All right.
I do have a question.
When I move away, I'll see if there's someone from
Yes,
fire who will come forward and be sworn in and answer that question.
Thank you.
Mr. Chris?
Yes, Mr. Shuford, understanding that the fire department needs a 20-foot wide easement, but you have a home in there now behind that daycare that is traversing that 15-foot easement. What happens if there's an emergency at that house and we have to dispatch EMS? Would they go, or would they stop and go on foot beyond the daycare? What would we do?
Well, I believe they would take their vehicle in as far as they could go, but again, that's probably a question best asked to the fire department.
And so the proposed house and lot are approximately 200 feet beyond the existing home, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And so that same situation, if there were an emergency, we would still have to traverse that narrow way. We couldn't deny them the medical assistance or fire service, right?
Yes, sir. It's my understanding that they would provide that service as rapidly as they could and to the best of their ability.
But there is some danger of damaging a $250,000 truck on a road that's narrow, isn't it? Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Stand by. I'm sure there'll be some additional questions. We'll open the public hearing.
So our first speaker is Mr. David Lee Zurafel.
You made a very good attempt at that last name. That is okay. I answered to about everything. You should hear what my wife calls me sometimes. My name is David Lee Zaravel. I'm an attorney with McGahey, Hudson, and Zaravel, and I represent the applicants Tony and Emily Mendez. All right, my address is 138 Dick Street here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So just questions were brought up about fire truck access, all right, and Mr. Shuford really can't testify to that because he is not a firefighter, never has been a firefighter. But my client, Mr. Mendez, who is a member of the Fayetteville City Police Department at this time, was a former member of the Hope County Fire Department. And if you want me to call him up here and ask him some questions concerning access, we would gladly do that, okay? If you would prefer me to do that.
Let's just go ahead with your presentation, sir. Are we looking for a fireman, Mr. Shuford? Go ahead, sir.
Well, yeah, we won't do that. He said pull the alarm.
Don't pull the alarm.
So,
Go ahead, sir.
so those statements by Mr. Shuford, I think should be taken for what they're worth, okay? Sorry, Mr. Shuford. The applicants, Tony and Emily Mendez, they own a lot located at 7656 Rayford Road. They'd like to build their own personal home on that property. They submitted a site plan to planning, and that site plan met all the setback requirements required in the AR district. They have also spent over $5,500 in preparing that lot in order to build their home. They paid for lot clearing. As you saw, the larger trucks that were on the property in the picture that Mr. Shuford showed you. They have paid to abandon a well on the property, and they've also paid to have the property surveyed. They applied for a building permit to begin constructing their personal home, and they were denied that building permit because of Section 30-6A, subsection 4C of the UDO, which states that each lot shall front a public street or highway. Okay? And their lot does not front a public street or highway. It sits 2 lots back off of Rayford Road. But it does have an easement. That easement gives them the right for egress, egress to that piece of property. That easement is a legal right to the use of property to another. That easement, I know the city staff said something, it was not as permanent as fee simple ownership. Well, it is. It goes from owner to owner to owner to owner. If they sell this piece of property, that goes with the property. It runs with the land. It is as permanent as fee simple ownership. You just have the right to use of that property rather than owning the property itself. In order for council to approve this subdivision waiver, they have to make 3 findings. That first one is the strict application of the ordinance subdivision requirements resulting in practical difficulties and unnecessary hardships. Well, it does. It's definitely an unnecessary hardship when you cannot build a home on your lot and you have no reasonable use of that property. Guess they could use it as a vegetable garden, but it leaves them with no reasonable use of that piece of property. This lot was created in 1973. Not 2005. It was created in 1973. They had a recorded easement done in 1999. While this property was in the county, they followed the rules that were necessary for them to get a building permit. It was only after they were annexed by the city that those rules changed. They could have built what was in the county. So there's definitely a practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship, and as he is unable to build his home on that property or have no reasonable use for it. Council must also find number 2. Do practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship results from topographical or other conditions peculiar to the land and are not the result of the actions of the landowner? Well, again, we go back to the peculiar condition of this land is that it is landlocked with access only by an easement. They would have been able to build their home at the time when they planned. County would have given them that building permit in order to do this. The third one is that number 3, granting the subdivision waiver will not destroy the intent of the requirements being waived. What are the requirements? The requirements is to front a public street or highway. What's the intent of that? The intent of that is to ensure that that home has access to a piece of property, has access to a street. Now, they can go out and try to buy a 20-foot strip of property that leads out to Rayford Road, but believe it or not, they wouldn't have to use that. They could still continue to use their easement for ingress and egress onto that piece of property. They could leave that piece of property with trees still on it. The intent of this requirement is not for the city to make a bunch of flagpoles, because that's what they're called, flagpole lots. That's not the intent of this. The intent is to have access to a public street or highway. They have that. An easement gives them the right for access out on the Rayford Road. It is permanent. It runs with the land. If they sold the property to somebody else, those property owners would have the right to use that easement as well. So it is permanent. Kind of brings me to the question that I also have about the Hills. Okay, that is Emily Mendez's parents. They have a house that sits on that easement as well. If their house burnt down, could they rebuild their home on that lot? Nope. They could not rebuild their home on that lot because they have access through what again? An easement. They followed the rules that they had to follow. They subdivided it prior to 1984. Okay, county says we'll give you a building permit if you subdivide prior to 1984. Well, this was subdivided back in 1973. County also said we'll give you a building permit if you have an easement. They have a legally recorded easement back in 1999. They followed all the rules they were supposed to follow. Now we change the rules and say sorry. But back to the intent. The intent is not destroyed by granting the subdivision waiver. They do have access to a public street or highway. They have access out on the Rayford Road. It's different from a lot of other lots that may have to go through through 12 other properties in order to access that public road. They go through 2. Thank you. We'd ask you, by the way, to follow Planning Commission's recommendation to approve the subdivision waiver with those conditions stated by Mr. Schufert.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
So our next speaker is Mr. Anthony Mendez.
My name's Tony Mendez, and I was just going to make myself available for questions if anyone had any questions.
Thank you, sir. Just stand by. We could have some at the end of this. Thank you for coming.
So the next speaker signed up is Miss Emily Mendez.
Same thing. I'm just here available for questions, and so is my mother, Dee Hill. I don't know. My mother is also.
Dee Hill.
Yes.
That's it, sir. I have no further speakers.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone? Is that the conclusion?
Yes.
Okay. We'll
No
close the
further
public
speakers.
hearing and entertain any additional questions from council. Ms. Applewhite and then Mr. Fowler.
I do have one for Mr. Oh, there you are, Mr. Schufert, please. Where did he go? Now, if you could refresh my memory, during our agenda briefing, we talked about that flag lot to the one side.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess that'd be the east side.
If we can get to, this would illustrate it. One way to create a legal lot would be to obtain, in this case, property on this side that would connect into that lot. That would be what we call a flagpole lot or a flag lot. Mr. Zurveld referred to that in his comments to you tonight as well.
Okay. And during the discussion, I believe in our package, it says that the applicant has been unable to negotiate, or should I ask that of you, Mr. Mendez? Can I ask you that question? Once you were informed about this situation, had you attempted to negotiate an easement on that right side, that flag lot side?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the outcome of that?
So far, my father-in-law worked for them. He asked Mr. Gillis if they were interested in selling us the property. They didn't respond back till just recently, and he's not wanting to.
He's not, okay. So then and Mr. Schufert keeps disappearing from me. But so with that being said, being that he cannot obtain that easement, and if we did not grant that access, the lot would virtually be landlocked.
Well, from my perspective, it is indeed landlocked because it doesn't have a fee simple access to a right-of-way, either a public or a private right-of-way. So, but you're exactly right. In this circumstance, there's no way to build on it without the granting of the waiver, at least immediately. Obviously, if Mr. Gillis was developing the property that's nearby or the larger parcel, we could obtain access, but it's uncertain when that would occur.
Okay, thank you. And one more question for you, Mr. Mendez. Was there a house previously on that lot that you're building on?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it long? What happened? I'm just curious. What happened to that house?
My in-laws would be better able to answer
But
that
that's
question.
that's okay then.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from what they told me, I was there from the 1940s and it was destroyed close to 2000.
And I think it's fabulous you want to live behind your in-laws. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Fowler?
Mr. Shuford.
Yes, sir, Mr. Fowler.
Okay. I want to go back to Mr. Zaravel's comments on the flag lot. If I understood him correctly, if he had the land as a flag lot, he could still leave that land undeveloped that he bought to just have to connect to Rayford Road, still access through an easement. City services would still have to go through the current easement that's there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I believe that's correct under our current development code.
Okay. And even if he had the flag lot, he could make an easement that might even be narrower. His driveway might be narrow because it's a driveway.
Yes, sir.
Could even be narrower access back to that lot. Is that correct also?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay. So the intent is to have access to the lot.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that intent more important than the intent to have the lot butt up next to a private or public road?
Well, I think the intent is to have an access that will be sufficient for that property for the foreseeable future. I think we all recognize that when Mr. Mendez builds his house on this property, he's going to want to have a successful way to access that property and a safe way for it to be accessed if he needs emergency services. And that's essentially what we're attempting to create by our regulations that require the connection to the street. Having said that, you have certainly the recommendation of the Planning Commission that supports the findings of fact, and staff is making this our comments because we see that this is a situation that can occur in other situations throughout the areas that we've annexed into the county, and we are concerned about the precedent-setting nature of your action tonight. But
Well,
having said
the
that,
city-
each
the
case
city-
like this would be quasi-judicial, so
Sure.
there's that reduces the potential for precedent.
Okay, but using that terminology, it would seem to me that the city set a precedent in taking in land where people had access to their property, and then would set a precedent of saying, you had access to your property, but we are now going to deny access to your property, and that therefore your property rights are superseded by the desires of the city. And I think that's not a very good precedent to set, in my opinion. There, so thank you. That's you don't have to
That's
respond.
probably not
That's a
probably
comment from me,
out of the,
not a question.
Question
so
and
I
answering
apologize.
part. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, you don't have to answer that
Okay,
one.
thank you. Mr. Chris?
Mr. Shuford, I'm,
It's your pleasure.
when we had the agenda briefing, you talked about the flagpole approach. I'm not sure that there's any significant utility in asking this gentleman to try and negotiate an easement on the other side when there's already an existing easement. Did I miss something?
The only thing that would be different is that we would have at least a 20-foot wide access that would be compliant with building code requirements. But like I've indicated to you, that life safety code requirement doesn't kick in until 3 or more units are involved. So from I guess from a real technical standpoint, it's not necessarily as material as it might be.
And Counselor stated that the lots were subdivided and purchased when they were a part of the county, and then upon annexation, all of the rules changed, but the owners have had the intent of building on there before they were annexed. Is that your understanding?
Yes, sir. That's the circumstance for this case.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Bates?
Mr. Shuford, would they be required to go on to PWC, or do they have the option of going well and septic tank?
I'm not sure how their services, services will be provided here. That's probably a great question for.
I'd ask the applicant here. I think Mr. DeWaba was.
He has already contacted PWC, and that easement gives the right for utilities as well, okay? They are going to run the utilities. He's already got it set up with them. Has paid them, as a matter of fact, in order to get these utilities run to his property. So he will be getting them through PWC.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Shuford, you had something about that future connectivity. I'm curious about that. I think we all recognize that were some of those parcels to be developed in the future, it might provide some more clear access. Is there any way that we can flag the file so that were those projects to ever come to us, we seek that connectivity with this lot?
Yes, sir. We will certainly do that when those properties become developing.
Okay. And then secondly, I suspect there are tens, if not dozens, of these very same kind of issues in the western part of Fayetteville. Is there anything that we proactively can do to try to get ahead of that and offer some clear direction to citizens as to ways that a way forward, so we don't find ourselves with people landlocked parcels?
Well, I think you raise a good question, Mayor. If you look at this map that I have up here, you'll see a number of properties which are in effect landlocked just in this general vicinity. So it's not an isolated or individual problem that we have with this particular circumstance. We probably can do some work to get a better handle on just how extensive the problem is, but I suspect it's fairly extensive, and it will complicate situations for us. We may remember Ms. Dolores Poindexter, who's spoken here before about Fork Road and access there. We have spent a lot of time looking at that in the past without a real good resolution, but I think we'd be, if that's the direction of council, we'd be happy to look at it some more and see what.
Well, I think that'd be a good idea. And lastly, sir, we're at a 20-foot easement. Would you have the same concerns?
If it was 20 feet, it would certainly be a lot better from the standpoint of emergency access.
So would a possibility to explore be consider in the future that a permanent 20-foot easement would be viewed favorably? It would necessarily require the footage on a...
If we are going to provide access to single-family lots via some form of easement, 20 feet would be the minimum width we would recommend.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any additional questions? Ms. Applewhite?
Motion, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Having, based on the testimony this evening and with the belief that we've met the finding of fact, I recommend we accept the Planning Commission's recommendation, which is option 2, to approve the waiver with conditions allowing a permit to be issued for a parcel that does not abut a public or private street, and that is accessed via an easement. Ms. McDonald, do I have to read those? Yes, I do. She's looking at me. Yes, I do. Okay. The conditions being that the legal easement, which is recorded by deed, shall be platted, and that the plat indicates that the city shall not be involved in any property owner issues relating to the easement. Number 2, that the plat shall indicate that the easement allows for government access as needed. And the 3rd condition, that the garbage rollouts used by the residents of the parcels shall be rolled to Rayford Road for waste pickup by the city's environmental services.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second by Mr. Fowler. Is there any discussion on the motion? Let me ask for your vote, please. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, council. We'll move now to item 6.4, amendments to certain requirements for educational facilities and child care centers in the downtown zoning district. Mr. Shuford?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Our current code requirements establish a 500-foot separation distance between certain types of educational facilities, churches, and child care centers, and bars and nightclubs, adult uses, and similar things. We've been approached by the owners of the Capitol building, and they would like to be able to accommodate a charter school in their development plans as one option. And there are other situations in our downtown, such as a church or business wanting to open a child care center, for example, that can arise in a growing, vital downtown when uses are in close proximity to each other, as they are in downtown Fayetteville. The proposed amendment would eliminate the separation requirement for educational facilities and child care centers from bars and nightclubs only in the downtown zoning district. The current code requirement is a citywide code requirement, and it applies in every zoning district that these uses are allowed in. But this one would only apply in the downtown. We have put in some provisions for educational facilities and child care centers to have their traffic plans considered and approved by staff to avoid congestion issues, drop-off issues, and that sort of thing. And a very important point, bars and nightclubs in the downtown district would still be required to be located 500 feet from a church, an educational facility, or a child care center. But the practical effect of that is quite minimal, and I'll try to illustrate this with this map. The area in green is our downtown zoning district, and you can see that it's got an unusual shape, but it runs along here, takes in the Airborne and Special Ops Museum, this property over here. To orient you, this is Hay Street right here, Robinson Street over here. So you've got the medical arts facility here. Now these red circles that are shown in this map are areas where churches exist currently. And you can see just from the existence of those churches, there's very few places where a bar or a nightclub could go into the downtown zoning district anyway with the current provisions. There is one bar. It's located at 126 Person Street, and it is called Charlie's Pub. It was formerly B&B Tavern, and that is the only bar per se in our downtown, and it is close enough to the Capitol property where it precludes a school or a child care center from being located there. But I hope that this map provides you with some perspective about the limiting nature of the separation distance requirement as it currently exists. Properties where the bars could go in would be along Rand Street up here typically, and there are some opportunities down in Russell Street with the current separation requirements, but in general, most of the downtown is precluded. This was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission by unanimous vote. Staff also recommends that this text amendment be approved. Today, Ms. McGill, would you please pass out the letters that we received from the Downtown Alliance? Downtown Alliance members were kind enough to provide a letter of support, and you will have that letter submitted to you. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, sir, we have a few. Mr. Bates, then Mr. Hare, and then Ms. Applewhite.
Yes, sir. Mr. Shuford, now, this is only for the downtown district, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I thought that's what we was briefed on Wednesday, and then when we talked today, I thought that this was just going to change to where it was citywide.
No,
And
no,
so
sir.
I would not
I'm
support it
sorry if-
citywide.
I'm sorry if I gave you that impression. This only applies in the downtown zoning district.
Okay, and I'm going to see if I get this straight, though. A church can go in within 500 feet of a bar, but a bar cannot be within 500 feet of a church?
No, sir. This particular amendment doesn't address churches whatsoever. And so a new church could not locate in the downtown zoning district within 500 feet of any existing bar.
A new church.
A new church. Existing ones are grandfathered. This particular separation standard was established in 2009, and its establishment basically grandfathered existing situations. And of course, if we had annexed property into the city, then and they were non-compliant, then that would have been grandfathered as well. But in a nutshell, what this does, it would allow a child care center or a school to locate within any distance to an existing bar or place of entertainment in the downtown. But a new bar or a new place of entertainment could not locate within 500 feet of a school, a church, or a child care center. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, but that's what I'm having a hard time trying to grasp, is saying that a church could come in within 500 feet of an existing bar, but an existing bar cannot come in within 500 feet of a church.
Not under this amendment. The church still could not come in within 500 feet of the bar, but a school or a child care center could.
Okay, so let me say that different then. A bar cannot go within 500 feet of a daycare or a school, but a school or a daycare can go within 500 feet of a bar. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. A daycare could go within 500 feet of a bar under this change.
So we got to figure out which came first, the chicken or the egg. I mean, you can say one can be within 500 feet of one, but the other one can't be. Okay, all right. It's just.
All right, Mr. Hare.
I understand, but it don't make no sense.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Shuford, as we spoke on Wednesday, and I'm a little tossed now, even because I wanted to really hear and let some other members speak. When I first brought this, and with the support of just about everyone on this council, the concern was protecting children and the residents because we had a case, and I don't know if you were here working on it, where we had a strip club less than 20 feet, we had a daycare center. And because of the present ordinance and the other businesses moving, now that's in place for that particular one. So kudos for our ordinance. And then there was another where presently right now we have a business that sells alcohol with no nothing. You walk right into a residential yard. So the whole concept when I initiated this with Councilmember Bates at that time was to put some distance between those businesses and churches and schools, okay, and daycare centers. Now, if I'm understanding correctly, if that is eliminated, then we're right back where we were initially when I brought this up and we were trying to fight that. Is that my understanding?
Yes, sir, with a couple of qualifications. One, it would only be in the downtown zoning district.
I do understand that.
Yes,
I do understand that. That you answered the question. So.
Well, wait a minute. Well, he said with two caveats. Let's let him answer the question fully, and then you can ask. What was the second thing?
The other one would be, again, as we mentioned earlier, it wouldn't apply to a church.
It wouldn't apply to the church. So what my concern is, because my only thing is concerning what I just brought up. That's my only. So what happens to the protection now if that is eliminated? I mean, what happens to the atmosphere of someone walking out of church or someone or the daycare center? I mean, what happens to that if it goes back to, and we hope, I'm pretty sure, we hope that doesn't happen, but what happens? I mean, how do we protect now if we eliminate that?
Well, the issue, I think, is this, and while staff supports this ordinance for a number of practical reasons, we can certainly understand the philosophical issue that you were trying to address when you brought this ordinance forward back in 2009. But from our perspective, the downtown is a little bit different in terms of how land uses are configured. You have buildings that are adjoining each other, land uses that are more mixed. You don't have purely residential areas typically in a downtown or purely commercial areas. And so there has to be this balance of land uses. Right now, a restaurant that serves only 30% of their sales will be towards food, 70% towards alcohol, could go right next to a church, and that's allowed in our downtown right now. The issue, I think, from our perspective, is that a restaurant can go right next to a church, a school, or a child care center.
Downtown?
Yes, sir, and actually anywhere in the city.
Because?
That restaurants are allowed. Because they're not, what you have is I'm going to put it in terms that may be pejorative, but they're not meant to be. You have what we call a nuisance use, and there were three of them. A nightclub and a bar, that's one. An adult use, which is the strip club that you're talking about, and the other one was a place of entertainment, which would be a place of live music or something along those lines. The ordinance that was put in place in 2009 required a 500-foot separation distance from any of those nuisance uses and three types of protected uses: schools, child care centers, and churches. So, but it did not address the restaurant use. It would not address an alcoholic beverage control store. Those could go within 500 feet of a church, a daycare, or a school.
Well, I know some other members are going to probably want to speak, so I'm going to end on this note. I really think we probably need to go back and look at this ordinance now that's in the UDO, because just hearing what you're saying now, there are still some breakthroughs, some leaks in the bucket where these type of things can still take place. And the whole idea of this was protection, for children and churches and things along that line. And if you had a guideline by council at that time with, like I say, support of everyone around this diocese that was on council, and you had that, and when you put the UDO together and you set the loopholes there without at least bringing it to the attention, it should have been highlighted just from the perspective of that ordinance, and it was so fresh. It was 2009, so I won't be able to support it, but I do understand what you're saying. That's just a loophole, and maybe that's something I should have caught, and maybe nobody else, because I brought it to the table, or me and Keith anyway. Thank you.
Applewhite.
I think you've kind of hit on some of the questions that I had. The intent of what we did in 2009. Now, where the Capitol building is, isn't there like a really nice business there that you go and taste wine and stuff? There's like a wine tasting.
Yes, ma'am. There's a wine store.
Yeah, it's just wine. You just go in and taste wine. It's a nice place. But doesn't that, it goes back to the intent of what we had. So now we put a school there. So it's not a restaurant, it's not a bar or a place of entertainment. It is just a nice place to go drink wine. And I think somehow, wow, That's not a conflict right there? And I think that's within 500 feet.
Well,
of
it
the-
certainly is. What I would say to you is that there's a variety of different uses in which alcoholic beverages can be purchased, and that seems to be one of the concerns. So you have a store, a retail store that sells wine, does hold wine tastings. That is a retail store, not a bar or a place of entertainment. You have a restaurant where people are able to buy alcoholic beverages. That is not a bar or a nightclub. Or you might have a grocery store where you can buy beer and wine, and those don't fall into that category.
I got you. Okay, that's good, thank you.
Mr. Massey.
Thank you. I want to look at this from a slightly different perspective. I was blessed to be able to work for a few years over at Fayetteville Tech. And when I read this sheet here, I see us describing educational facilities. Is there any such animal as a charter school for adults?
I may have gotten us confused by that, Mr. Massey. Let me point this out in our ordinance itself. I'll find it here in a second. There is an exemption for colleges and vocational schools in the ordinance that, here it is, that has been established, I think, since 2009, because we didn't make any changes in adopting the UDO other than to make sure it was very clear that that there was a reciprocity. So we had been applying it, but it was not clear in the code that if you wanted to put a daycare or a elementary school next to a bar, you couldn't. We weren't allowing that to occur, and the UDO made that very clear.
Okay, but my question is this: there's a concept called lifelong learning, and people sometimes have to retrain for jobs or whatever the case may be. We had talked about finding ways and means to assist some of our more creative educational institutions in helping people realign their lives. My question is whether or not when we identify educational facilities and then we go back to the whole issue of protecting children, can we not create a school that will address adult academic needs?
Yes, sir. You can, and the limitation is actually for elementary, middle, and high schools, not for the vocational type situations that you're referring to.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes, sir. Mr. Schaefer, the Fascinate You Museum, that's a children's museum, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's just right down here, if I remember correctly, right? How close is that to the bar on Person Street?
I don't know if I can tell you exactly, but my guess would be that it would be within 500 feet.
Do we fear for the safety of those children because they're in close proximity to that bar?
I can't answer that question.
Okay, I didn't think you could. That's all right. And the other thing is, part of what we're looking at building downtown is an area where people will reside. In other words, increasing as far as growing the city, one of the things that we look for is where there's opportunities to rationally increase density, we want to do that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And in part of doing that, when you increase the density, you need additional services. Would that be correct also?
Yes, sir.
Services such as childcare for families that live in the area? Services such as schools?
Yes, sir.
And you're saying that in other metropolitan areas where we have density like that, do you know that there is a standard 500-foot separation between those educational facilities or daycares and the assortments that we're talking about here?
There are in some communities separation standards. 500 feet is certainly the largest of those standards that I've come across in the research that I've been able to do. And
what's the smallest you've come across?
0 feet.
0, okay. And we have,
and that is frankly the most common.
And we have events in Fayetteville called Fourth Friday. Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir.
where we have families come down and they're walking down the streets. And there are plenty of restaurants where people are sitting outside in the front of the restaurant openly drinking alcohol. Is that correct?
That's true.
And I don't believe we fear for our children there. Thank you.
Mr. Crisp?
Mr. Shuford, if someone bought the Williams Building and had 150 people working in there, would they need a special use permit to put a daycare in there for the people working in that building? And I ask this question because my understanding is this is becoming a common practice in a lot of cities. Would I have to get a special use permit to put a daycare in that building for the workers in there to bring the children to work and have?
You might very well need to comply with our separation requirements under that circumstance, Mr. Chris. But you wouldn't necessarily need a special use permit.
But in accordance with our ordinance, it could happen. Is that correct?
Well, that's one of the things that caused staff to think that this was probably something we would recommend, is that you might have a business in the downtown that needed a child care for its workers. You might have a church in the downtown that had extra space and wanted to bring in a private child care provider to take up that space, and they might be, again, precluded from the opportunity of doing that. You may have a church that would like to open a school for K through 3. Again, because of the proximity of a single bar, they may be precluded from doing that.
Let me ask you this, and this may be a far reach, but do we have any feel for the numbers of alcohol-related incidents that have occurred in the vicinity there of where this proposed school is during school hours? Do we have a feel for that from our police department, anything?
No, sir, we don't have that research available right now. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Bates, you have another question, sir?
Yes, sir. Mr. Shuford, if this was approved tonight and the school went in there and they just didn't have enough enrollment and they shut down, could they turn it into a nightclub?
If we're talking about the Capitol building, no, sir, because they are too close to churches to be able to do that.
Okay, so I just trying to make sure. So no matter what happened to this Capitol building that wants to put a schoolhouse in there, if that didn't pan out and they decided, well, we want to put a nightclub, DJs or bands or whatever, they would not be able to do that.
That's correct.
And why can't they put a school in there now?
Because they are within 500 feet of Charlie's Pub.
Okay. Now, instead of changing the whole ordinance, could we do this under a special use permit so that, okay, you answered the other one that's going to make me do a little more thinking on it. I was looking at if we, instead of changing the whole ordinance, if it came back as a special use permit as, a non-alcoholic establishment, but they couldn't put alcohol in there anyways, what you're saying. So without approving this, then that economic development part of that site is pretty much dead in the water.
Well, if without some way to address the separation issue, you cannot put the charter school that's being proposed there in that site.
All right, thank you.
Just one point of clarification too, because it's so easy when we think about downtown. There's only one bar in downtown. You can have restaurants that serve alcohol.
Yes, sir.
So you could have a restaurant, I think, there, Keith. You couldn't have a bar there. Is that right, Mr.
That's
Shuford?
correct.
We only have one bar downtown, Charlie. Ms. Applewhite, I think you had another question.
I just had a really quick question, nothing to do with the separation, but there was a caveat in there about the traffic pattern needing to be approved by the staff.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, just for the life of me, I've sat in many a school lines picking up kids. For the life of me, I cannot imagine Hay Street with parents picking up kids at 3 o'clock. What's that gonna look like?
Well, if it involves the Capitol building, it won't be Hay Street. It'll be the street behind, the backside.
Okay, good.
And for the childcare and for some types of schools, we would want the drop-off to be in such a fashion that they won't have to cross the street.
You're right, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, we're getting ready to open the public hearing, but I would suggest you stand by pretty close, Mr. Schufer. Ma'am?
So our first speaker is Mr. Ralph Huff. It's not quite quasi-judicial. It's not quasi-judicial. You don't have to swear in for this.
Swear me in.
We think your word is good.
My name is Ralph Huff, and my current address is 1127 Offshore Drive. And my new address, as of May the 31st, will be 300 Hay, Unit 401. I'm putting my furniture where my money is, not where my mouth is. I am one of the Capital Partners LLC members, and I think if everybody will just look at it this way, the bar's here, and if a school thinks they want to locate around this bar, then they're making a conscious decision as to whether or not that bar is endangering those children. But if the school's here, the bar doesn't have that choice. They got to be 500 feet away. And before I got here tonight, there are two churches that have recently closed downtown. But without those two churches, the Methodist Church is connected to the Baptist Church, and the Baptist Church is connected to the Episcopal Church, and the Episcopal Church is connected to the Presbyterian Church, and the Presbyterian Church is connected to the Catholic Church. These circles, there's no place to put a bar downtown as long as the 500 feet is there. So y'all don't have to worry about that. They got to go over there to where the concrete plant is to build them a bar. So, but the key here in terms of protecting the children and the church and the schools, you're doing that because they can make a conscious decision whether or not they think that bar is threatening to the people in the school. And that's exactly what I think all of you want. The bar doesn't have that option. They got to go get them a tape measure and make sure they're 500 feet from any of those things. And when you look at the circles on the map, there are really not many places for there to be a bar. But on behalf of the Capital Partners, I will say this: we have turned away a lot of people that wanted to turn the Capitol into a nightclub. We set out for this building to be something that would be a center for downtown. We hoped it was going to be the art museum. That didn't work out. We talked to the Arts Council about taking it and turning it into a cultural arts center. They were afraid to do that because they didn't know what it was going to cost to operate. And then these people come in from the Midwest. They've done 20 of these things, and they're talking about putting in a cultural art charter school downtown. Now, if you go back to the Marvin Plan or the Allison Plan or the 1864 Plan or all the plans you got in your drawer, there is a cultural arts high school downtown. And that's what this will be without anybody having to build it. And so we're so excited about it because there's just nothing that could go in that building that we think would be better than this cultural arts high school. And we certainly hope that it's been approved by the the staff and from the council, and we hope you will reinforce that decision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So our next speaker is Mr. Mark Adams.
Mr. Bates, I think alcoholics and people who have a hangover need Jesus, but that's something different. I don't see why they had that separation. Educationally, this is an ideal place. Kids have access to the public library, and there are volumes and volumes and volumes of materials that go unread and unused every day. They have access to Education U. Teachers will fill up that parking lot that's downtown is currently empty. When you talk about a daycare, you're talking about quality of benefits that you offer to employees who are not making the top wages. So having a daycare, having a school will benefit everybody in the area. Fayetteville is coming into, it's not 21st century, but the 20th century. In Durham High School is located within 200 feet of these establishments. In Raleigh, Enloe High School is. But this is a charter school which doesn't fit into the mold of any other school. But it is an ideal place in Fayetteville, because if you look at where every other school is located in Fayetteville, they don't have access to that library. They don't have access to Education U. They don't have access to the professionals that work downtown. In terms of safety, you don't have another school that's close to the police department. You know, if you want to know what the response is in terms of the bar, well, the police department's right down the street. And you can get to that school before you get to the bar. I think you won't have any problem with that. But educationally, this is an ideal place to be. It's great for the residents downtown. It's great for residents throughout the city, because with a charter school, you don't have a district. Other students should be able to apply and get in. All it has to do is be approved by the state. The state will determine if it's safe or not. That's all I have.
We have your address, please, sir. Your address, please.
Oh, 822 Slade Drive.
Thank you, sir.
SCHLEY.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
So our next speaker is Mr. Art Duke.
Good evening. My name's Art Duke. I'm at 151 Buckingham. I'm here because I happen to be an old businessman, small businessman, and they're talking about putting a school or something like that in that building, as far as I can see, is what this is all started out to be. And I am completely for it. I'm for small business. And schools and stuff, what better can you do? If it'll work and can make a growth work, the downtown section can't do anything but get better. By the way, the parking lot, if they want to use it, they can go to my church. It's at their back door. The First Baptist Church is right there at the back door of this place. Now we're talking about that building. If you want to change your rules and start putting bars and stuff all over town next to schools, I'm against it. But as far as you're talking about letting business grow downtown, I'm prejudiced. Give it to them.
Thank you, Mr. Duke. Thanks for coming, sir.
So our next, you don't want to speak? Okay. Our next speaker is Mr. John Thompson.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
I'm going to wear two hats this evening. I am currently the president of the Downtown Alliance, so I'll speak under that hat right off the bat. We, as an organization of downtown businesses, have seen no issues with this school going in, so we are going to support this amendment change, or text change, as you call it. So that's our official stance on that. I know you received the letters as well. Now I'm going to take off that hat, put on my personal hat. I have no issues with the school going in. I think it's a great idea. The only thing, I have a couple concerns with it. The reciprocity of the separation. Currently, it is my understanding throughout the city that it's reciprocal, that a bar can't open up within 500 feet of a church, and versi vice, the church can't open up within 500 feet of a bar, if that's correct. I believe that is. The only thing I worry about with this, if you give the leeway for the school to open up within the distance of the bar, and the Renaissance plan is being gone over, and they were talking about changing the separation from the churches and bars going to be discussed in that plan. If that plan is gone through and they say they shrink that down to whatever, will the school block another bar from opening downtown if the ordinance is changed through the Renaissance plan? So that was a concern I had. I didn't want another business coming in that would block potential growth to downtown. Downtowns thrive off of entertainment. Granted, nobody wants to have a big booming nightclub everywhere and all the noise and stuff that goes with them. But a small little Cheers type Irish pub kind of thing is not a bad deal. So I would hate to see that type of possible business growth in the future blocked because there's a school down here now. So I would like, the reciprocity to be both ways on that. The other concern that I had as an individual is the safety of the children. Traffic was one, and I know that's being addressed a little bit. The other was, I've been down here 2 years in downtown. We don't really have a big homeless problem, but we have a small one. And the ones we do have a problem with are not always in the sane state of mind. And I would really hate to see a child get injured by a homeless person going out. And they go through that parking lot and stuff all the time down there. So I'd like to see that kind of an issue addressed as well. And then if you have any questions for me as a Downtown Alliance president, I'm here available for that as well.
And your address, sir?
My business is 112 Anderson. Okay. My home is 3440 Thorndike.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming.
Sir, our final speaker is Mr. Carl Merritt.
Mayor and Council, my name is Carl Merritt. I live at 4405 Byway Circle, Fayetteville 28311. I'm a member of First Baptist Church on Anderson Street, where Reverend Ed Bedingfield is pastor. And Pastor wanted to be here tonight to give you his position on this matter, but could not be. So he asked me to be here and share his thinking. He would have me be clear in saying that he does not speak for the membership of First Baptist. There has been no official vote regarding this matter, so this is his personal position, and it is a position that I share. Let me start by saying that neither of us is opposed to the amendment that is being proposed here tonight. However, we have a couple of concerns that I want to share with you. And the first is, and after my cataract surgery, this lighting is messing with me. We're concerned that this not be the first of several steps that might lead us back to the situation that I understand existed downtown in the 70s. This proliferation of bars and an atmosphere that would come with it. The second concern is that those persons who are proponents of bars and similar businesses might possibly use the protection clause, the equal protection clause, to argue for changing the distance requirement between churches and these establishments. So those are the two primary concerns, and they come together then to lead us to suggest to you that instead of adopting or approving the amendment that's being proposed here tonight, make an appropriate exception just for the Capitol building that addresses their need. And if that's done, then the two concerns that I have raised would not be on the table. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Thank you for coming, sir.
So we have no further speakers.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. We'll close the public hearing and entertain any questions from council. Mr. Chris?
Mr. Huff? Sir, please. You know, there's an opinion out here in the world at large that when you say charter school, everybody thinks it's a school for the elitists. How is the membership determined that avoids allowing a charter school to become solely for the rich?
First of all, anybody that thinks the Alpha Academy is a school for the elitist is way out in left field. The Alpha Academy, in my mind, is really for kids who are having a hard time making it in the traditional school. This charter school will be open for people who want an education that is geared more towards cultural arts, whether it be choral art, whether it be dance, whether it be graphic art, whether it be band, orchestra. All of those things will be part of the curriculum at this academy. Now, the public school has classical schools at 71st and at Massey Hill, but they are classical schools. They're really not schools for cultural art. And I believe that's a huge need in our community to have a facility of that type. Now, I'm the landlord. If it was just a charter school, I'd be up here talking to you about it. But the fact that it's cultural arts is just something that I think is a fabulous opportunity for our community to be able to have a school like that without having to go out and buy it, build it.
Thank you.
Mr. Hurst?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for Mr. Shuford. Mr. Huff had brought up earlier, which is evident on our chart here, all the red circles pretty much cover all of downtown, including Hurst-Anaheim Supply. But the just recently opening of the Education Center, $500,000 investment and project by First Presbyterian Church right there on the corner of Bow and Ann Street. That's right across the street from that bar. So if this is not passed tonight, what would happen to that new Education Center? Could it not open as their school?
I'm going to assume that it's been classified something other than a school. I'll have to check on that, Mr. Hurst. I don't have an answer for you.
Thank you, Mr. Schufer.
Mr. Fowler?
Mr. Huff?
Can I answer Mr. Hurst's question? That's really not a school. It's an educational wing of the church. So it's just the choir room and the Sunday school classes. So it is still a church.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you about the charter school coming in. It's my understanding that no one is required to go to that school. Is that correct?
No, it's a total choice, and the school charter and the school is all they're mandates by the state and under which all these charter schools have to operate. But it is a school. Yes, it would be a total school of choice.
And if it runs like other charter schools, the students will it will depend. They'll have a certain number of slots available for children in that school, and then people will apply for that. And out of those applicants, it will be a random drawing for those who get accepted. Is that correct?
I cannot answer that question.
That's the way it is for other charter schools, and my understanding is that's the way it will be for that then.
I can't answer that question.
So in other words, I guess you could call this a leading question, but in other words, parents would have the ability to determine whether or not they felt that school was safe for their child before they apply for their child to go there.
Yes, absolutely. It would be a school of choice.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Applewhite?
Just a quick question. I'm not sure if it'll go Mr. Shuford or Ms. McDonald. Councilmember Bates brought it up, and Mr. Merritt. Is there some provision, instead of the text amendment applying to the entire downtown district, is there some provision just to say, you know, this building right here, you know, to allow them to be there without a blanket downtown? Is there a way to do that?
Yes, ma'am, and Ms. McDonald may have something to add, but I would say that there are a variety of ways that you could go about that. You could, for example, eliminate the separation requirement, but require a special use permit for different types of uses. Alternately, you could create certain circumstances in which the separation would not apply. So, for example, let's say you had a church or in this case, a child care center located across a major highway from a bar or a nightclub. You might specify that in that type of circumstance, the separation distance wouldn't apply. You could set up a waiver system, such as we have with the subdivision case tonight, or some form of variance allowance for these distances to be addressed on a case-by-case basis. But again, those are all case-by-case situations, and one of the things I will always caution councils about is when you have things that you want to see happen, it's better not to put special standards for them to have to go through in order to make that happen. And I'm not suggesting that's what you would do here in Fayetteville, but it's been my experience that a lot of times when you want certain types of development to happen, communities have a tendency to say, well, we really want that to happen, but we're going to require you to go through a special use permit process and other things that add a layer of complication or uncertainty onto it, and sometimes that's not a good thing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It was answered.
Mr. Schubert, can you go to the next slide that you had?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the text amendment for educational facilities.
We've got some additional questions here.
Oh, I'm sorry, then I'll wait for the additional questions.
I just have a question for Ms. McDonald, because the issue was brought up about, I think it was like equal protection or being able to use the land the same, and I would assume that really would not come into play here, since we do those kinds of things with zoning decisions all the time.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure on that. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Davy?
I would like to make a motion to approve the text amendment as recommended by the Planning Commission and city staff.
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Arp. Any discussion on the motion, council? Can I ask for your vote, please? That motion carries. Those in favor, Mr. Chris, Ms. Applewhite, Mr. Hurst, Mr. Shivani, Mr. Arp, Ms. Davy, and Mr. Fowler. In opposition, Mr. Bates, Mr. Hare, and Mr. Massey. Thank you very much. We'll move now to item 6.5, case P1204F, special use permit for a major utility.
Yes. Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and Council. As you just stated, the next case is P1204F. This is actually a case that was tabled last month by the City Council in order to get a representative of the applicant in to provide testimony in the special use permit case. Before we start, being that it is a special use permit, we do need to swear all the speakers in.
All right, thank you, sir.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Again, just as a quick refresher of this case, this is property located at 8880 Cliffdale Road. It's just under 2 acres. It is a special use permit for a major utility. There already is a utility substation on this property. There'll be a site plan here in a moment of the property as well. But what they're looking to do is a small expansion to this, basically in this northwest corner of the property. As you can see, it does back up to residential properties, basically all the way around, mix of different residential zoning districts around it. Low-density residential throughout this area. Land use plan calls for mainly low-density residential with this medium density across the road from the existing utility. Not sure how well this shows up on your screen. I believe the applicant may have a little better one that we can put up here, but basically this area in the black here is the expansion of the utility. As mentioned before, as part of the special use permit, the applicant has agreed to, as you can see, put in additional buffering, trees, evergreens, and small plantings here on this side of the project where it does back up to this residential area. Currently it's a little thin in that area, and they've agreed to thicken that up. Along with that, they've also agreed to put in some plantings here along Cliffdale Road. If we back up to the aerial photo, you'll see this is the area between them and the residential that they'll be thickening up. And then here along Cliffdale Road, there's nothing there currently, and they'll be doing some plantings there to try to soften the look of the power plant from riding down Cliffdale Road. They'll also, this area here, the apron of their driveway, currently their driveway is completely gravel. As another condition, they're going to pave this area about 15 feet in so that when they are pulling out onto Cliffdale Road, they're not spinning wheels or throwing gravel out onto Cliffdale. And it's actually a little bit of a safety issue, not only for the people on Cliffdale, but also for them trying to get out of the project as well. And this is just another view. This one actually is showing the apron that they plan to pave out here. The Zoning Commission and staff have recommended approval of special use permit based on the findings listed here, that the use complies with all applicable standards of 30-4C use standards. The all proposed expansion is 100 feet or greater from surrounding lot lines. That the special use is compatible with the character of surrounding lands and permitted in the zoning district of surrounding lands. The special use is an existing power substation and is compatible with what's in the area. The special use avoids significant adverse impacts on surrounding lands regarding service delivery, parking, loading, odors, noise, glare, vibration. Special use should have no impact on that surrounding lands regarding those issues. That the special use is configured to minimize adverse effects, including visual impacts of proposed and use on adjacent lands. It is more than 100 feet from surrounding property lines to minimize those effects, plus the additional buffering that I just showed you on the map that they plan to put in as a condition of this approval as well. Special use avoids significant deterioration of water, air, wildlife habitat, scenic resources, other resources. It should avoid all of that as well. The special use maintains safe ingress, egress to the site with safe road conditions around the site. It does provide direct access to Cliffdale Road, and as mentioned, they're going to do improvements to that drive to make it even safer. Special use allows for protection of property values and the ability of neighboring lands to develop their uses permitted in the zoning district. Since this is only an expansion of an existing utility, there should be little to no impact on neighboring lands. And the special use permit, special use complies with all other relevant city, state, federal laws, regulations, and they would have to in order to operate. Are there any questions of staff at this point?
Yes, sir. If my recollection serves me correctly, there were some concerns about lighting and the impact of lighting, and that's why this was sent back.
Well, it was basically sent back because at the time of the first public hearing, there was no representative from Lumbee River at the meeting to answer questions or to provide testimony in the special use permit, because again, this is a quasi-judicial proceeding.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Stand by. Let's open the public hearing, ma'am.
So our first speaker is Mr. David Ledford.
My name is David Ledford. I'm from 2730 Maiden Highway, Lincoln, North Carolina. I was hired as a consultant by Lumbee River to develop the site plan for this project. And I've got a couple copies here if anybody needs to see.
Just give those to the clerk, sir, and she can pass them around, Mr. Ledford. Thank you.
Basically, in regard to the site plan itself, we're going to be doing a 1,500 square foot expansion of the project on site. We got comments back from zoning that asked for buffers along the left side and the front side. We did comply with those items. Also, we had issues with compliance with the entrance being paved. We're showing that on the plans also. Basically, I'm just here for the site plan itself. If there's any other additional questions, feel free. We've got other representatives here. But at the current time, we've complied with all the measures that's been requested of us.
Thank you, Mr. Ledford. Thanks for coming. Stand by, sir. We might have some questions after the hearing.
Okay.
So our next speaker is Mr. Perry Cummings.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Perry Cummins. I represent Lumbee River Engineering. Our business address is 605 East 4th Avenue, Red Springs. My personal address is 481 Preston Road, Maxton. On behalf of Lumbee River, it is a request to approve this expansion of our substation. Basically, we are asking for 2 additional distribution bays to be added to the linear design. This substation was built approximately in 1988. It does serve our members in the Cliffdale area there. Currently, we are looking at this extension mainly for reliability to our existing electrical members. We have 4 bays, as I indicated. All 4 of them are currently in use. Okay, we have 2 circuits that are heavily loaded based on existing load. We'd like to split that load to additional circuits. That allows us better reliability. In addition, this substation is served from a lateral transmission line coming off Rayford Road or 401. With the additional circuit, 1 circuit back to 401, in the event of an outage or downtime associated with that transmission lateral, we would be able to basically backfeed that substation from another substation, which is Highway 401, located there on Rayford Road. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Stand by, please, sir.
So we have no further speakers.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and entertain some questions. Mr. Cummings, I have a couple of questions for you, please, sir, if you come back up. Could you speak a little more about, you mentioned reliability of service with this expansion. We do have some issues in some parts of our community, possibly in your service area, with inadequate street lighting. Would this increased capacity here provide more, were that to be happening in your service area, and I'm not sure it is, but would this provide more opportunities for those street lights to be installed on our thoroughfares and streets?
The capacity for the existing substation is based on the transformer size. We currently have a 20 MVA rated transformer. We are not proposing to increase that with this change. You know, our proposal is just to add 2 substations to split additional load. But there is opportunity for additional load growth, whether it be, you know, lighting or new accounts, et cetera. So we do have capacity at that substation, as we do with, you know, any substation within our service territory, for additional growth.
Okay, sir. Mr. Fowler and then Mr. Chris.
I happen to be one of your customers.
Okay, thank you.
I live on that side of town. And just 2 quick questions for you. One is on the paving of the road. Do you have a timeline on when that will be done, or has it already been done?
As far as the entrance driveway?
The entrance driveway.
No, it has not been completed, but we would do that within, you know, appropriate time period of, you know, starting the project. I mean, we could implement that as one of the first steps. It's not an issue for us.
Okay, and then the next question is, the purpose for doing this is to provide electrical services according to city standards to the residents of the city where you service them. Is that correct?
Correct, to provide electrical service to our members.
To our members, to the members that live in the city according to city standards.
That is correct, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chris.
Sir, there's a lot of development planned in that area there. Are you increasing the capacity of your output from that station? Is this what we're doing?
Not at this time, sir. Again, the capacity to increase that output would be changing to a larger transformer. Our base transformer, there's a 20, what we call a 20 MVA transformer. We are not changing that transformer. No, sir.
If, and this is realistic now, if there are 200 to 400 more homes going up off in that grid, how will this affect what you have there now? Because that's pretty much the number of homes that are going to go up there.
We can serve those 200 to 400 homes exactly as the substation is.
Including street lighting, right?
Including street lighting, that is correct.
Okay.
We do meet the new ordinance on street lighting for our new development. So
now, you said something about if the power goes out at that transformer, once you've completed what you're doing, you will be able to restore power very quickly by transferring to the transformer on Rayford Road. Is that what I...
That is correct. That is a lateral transmission line to that substation. It's on the extreme end of our system. We would have a loop feed back on Rayford Road. By being able to add the 2 circuits, that's 2 distribution circuits. One of those circuits would go basically a double circuit back to Rayford Road. That would give us 2 circuits which we could use to backfeed the residents for that Cliffdale substation.
If one of your 2 transformers there fails now, then citizens would be out of power until you could restore that particular transformer. You wouldn't be able to transfer.
If the substation transformer did fail, you are correct. The residents would be out of power until we brought in a mobile transformer.
So that when you finish your modifications here, you would be able to transfer or switch to another transformer to restore power in a very quick.
We would have
so that my food wouldn't spoil in my freezer, right?
We'd have additional backfeed capabilities.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Fowler, you had another question, sir?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we were clear on this, not differentiating between new and old customers. Okay. That the purpose is to increase efficiency, it sounds like, first of all.
That's correct.
So that you can provide electrical services to the LREMC customers within the city limits according to city standards.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any additional questions? Mr. Fowler, I think this is in your district, sir.
Just mine. I move we approve the special use permit for major utility on property located at 8880 Cliffdale Road containing 1.9 acres more or less and being the property of Lumbee River EMC.
Second.
Let me make sure, does that spell out with the additional conditions of additional landscaping as noted in the issues? I think that motion would.
I will add that as well.
Okay, everybody clear on that? Who seconded that? I'm sorry. Mr. Massey, you okay with that modification, Bob? Okay, everybody clear on the motion? May I ask for your vote, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move now to item 7.1. Uninhabitable structures demolition recommendation. That's a lot of syllables.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, we've got 5 residential dwellings that we're bringing to you tonight that have been determined to constitute blight. None of these properties are historic. The first one is 906 Branson Street. You can see the utilities have been disconnected since 2005, 20 calls for 911 service in the last 24 months, and 9 code violations in the last 24 months. Also some outstanding city assessments for lot cleaning. We are recommending that you authorize us to move forward with demolition of that building. 211 Davis Street. This one has been without utilities since 1999. Relatively little impact other than that. I will say that the owner of this building approached me at this meeting indicating that it was his intent to move forward to go through the acquisition and demolition program and not use general fund money. And we're happy to see that. He is in agreement that the house needs to be torn down. 407 Quality Road, 6 code violations the last 24 months. There are outstanding taxes and outstanding city assessments for lot cleaning. Again, another structure we would ask that you authorize us to tear down. In that same vicinity, 505 Quality Road, 3 911 calls in the last 24 months, 5 code violations, and over $1,000 in outstanding city assessments. Last one is 608 School Street, 25 calls for 911 service in the last 24 months and 11 code violations. But the owner has paid the assessments. This owner also approached me tonight and indicated a desire to rehab this house, and we will have that conversation with him, but we would again recommend that you authorize the demolition of this with the understanding in all cases that if there's some extraordinary or extenuating circumstances, staff would move forward and try to be reasonable in the application of these requirements. But this one has been a problem house with the 911 service calls, clearly.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Shuford? Ms. Applewhite?
Okay, I'm confused. This one, they want to rehab this house.
Yes, ma'am. The owner brought that to our attention tonight. As you know, we go through a lengthy, virtually 100-day process. It's the fastest we can get things through. And he indicated that to me that the first time he heard about it was when he got a letter about this meeting. I'm not sure that is necessarily the case, and perhaps he didn't understand the other contacts we've had with him. But we will hear what he has to say, and this is one that he's requested us to have some lenience.
Okay, and then the other one, the 211 address, that was just to use other funds?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but not, yeah, we're not trying to rehab that.
He was very interested in seeing it demolished.
Okay.
So that one will no doubt come down.
Okay. And you would let us know if you all decide to let that thing go forward?
Yes, ma'am. We've worked out from with our legal office some standard forms that we would use to, basically a contract that you have to achieve certain milestones, and if you fail to achieve those milestones, we move forward with the demolition. I'm not saying that we will go in that direction with this one, given its apparent history, but it is obviously we'll listen to what anyone has to say.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Entertain a motion from council here.
I'd like to make a motion for us to move forward with staff recommendation of demolishing 906 Branson Street, 211 Davis Street, 407 Quality Road, 505 Quality Road, and 608 School Street.
All right. Is there a second? Mr. Bates, any discussion on the motion? Master, your vote, please. Yeah. Mr. Fowler, leave, I'm sorry. Okay, that's unanimous, thank you. And before we adjourn, we want to wish special thanks to Mr. Iman for his leadership of our city over the last 5+ years, so thank you, Mr. Iman, for that. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.